Is Squid Game a modern-day Mandela effect? The title of the show is Squid Game, but most people call it Squid Games. What are your thoughts on that? What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today I've got my review of Squid Game Season 2. The second season is fully out on Netflix right now, all 7 episodes. And I'm going to give you my honest, spoiler-free thoughts. Before I get into this, be sure to hit that like button, comment your thoughts on Season 2 of Squid Game down below, and of course subscribe to that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. So giving you guys a little bit of backstory on my relationship with Squid Game, I watched the first season right when it dropped. Like, I'd say within a week or two of it hitting Netflix back in 2021. It was this global phenomenon. I believe it's one of Netflix's most viewed shows of all time. I don't know where it ranks on that list, but it's high up there. It was just the talk of the town back in like September 2021. Then it spawned this reality show. We got season 2, but it's been like 3 years since we've had a season of this show. And so there's been some anticipation building up. I was looking forward to it. I thought season 1 functioned better as a one-off at the time. And I didn't even love the ending of that season, but I accepted at a certain point, okay, we're going to get more, let's see what direction they take this. So I come into season 2, mixed expectations, and I walk out and I say, you know what? That was a pretty good follow-up, all things considered. Starting with my pros here, I had a real big concern about this season being repetitive and just being like a rehash of the first, not really switching anything up. And that was pretty quickly disproved because the first couple episodes, mild spoilers, I guess, don't even really take place at the games. They take place in the real world, and so we get to see a new side of this world that we didn't really explore all that much in season 1. Like, we follow the main character, who I'm just going to refer to as 456 because I don't want to mispronounce any names here, but ever since the end of season 1 when he turned around and didn't get on that plane, it's his mission to find whoever runs this whole thing and bring it down. We see some passage of time and a new batch of characters are introduced in that first episode, and as we get into the games themselves, which I was here for. You know, when you go into a second season, you gotta build out the world somehow, and a lot of the characters from Squid Game Season 1 are no more. They bit the dust. In fact, most of them did, aside from our main character, and so we got introduced to a lot of new ones here. They do a good job, in my opinion, of establishing new characters and making you feel for them in a pretty quick amount of time just based on hearing their backstory or putting them in an interesting scenario or situation. Once they're in their green jumpsuits with their numbers, we get to know, I'd say, a solid handful of characters, and you can feel for them all in various ways. As for the games themselves, there are new events, new games being played, so it's not like everything is just copy-paste from season 1 to season 2. Obviously, red light, green light's played. That's in the trailer. That's like the iconic game, right? But there's some twists and turns around every corner here that keep the show fresh. It is not like we're just going through the motions of season 1 in another season. This is new, and it does things new and different. To me, this season is building to even higher stakes. Like, yes, we're in the games, and so you've got the $45.6 billion prize money, and just like in season 1, there's clashing sides every time they decide whether or not to advance in the games. And that's another thing. I feel like they changed up some of the rules for the better here to add some drama to the mix. But something that really carries this season for me is that there's like this looming sense of an uprising at any given moment. You can tell that 456, our main hero, is, you know, really done and fed up with this, and he's got a strong voice. He's going to speak out. He establishes himself as like a leader of the other members of the game, the other players, pretty early on. And so I thought it was real neat the way that he kind of asserted himself and may or may not lead to, hey, sticking it to the man at some point this season or throughout the season building up to that a potential third season. Like, the intensity is there. Once everyone arrives and the games begin, it's just like in season 1 where you're hooked in every single scene, you're on the edge of your seat. There's a lot of tension-filled moments. The season kept me engaged, and the score too really worked for me. That Pink Soldiers theme, I believe is what it's called. You guys know the dun dun dun. I really am tone deaf, I swear, but you guys know what I'm talking about, the iconic little theme that plays from the show. Well, that's present again, but there's a lot of other like original pieces of music composed that work and add to the intensity, but also there's some surprising comedy here that worked, like moments of levity in this really intense situation where you'll get like a music cue that lets you know, hey, this is supposed to be kind of funny, lighthearted a bit, and I appreciated that because sometimes you find yourself holding your breath watching every scene, and there were some jokes sprinkled throughout that actually worked for me. And one of the more fascinating elements of season 2 was that there's a certain character thrown into the mix, and the audience, they're the only people who know his true identity. Every other character has no clue who this guy is, and so we as the audience are always one step ahead of our characters. And that just made every scene tense because we're trying to figure out what angle this character's taking all season long, it just added to that intensity that I keep referring to. And by the time this season reached an end, things got crazy. Elevated to a level I didn't think we were taking it, and borderline out of hand, I'm gonna say it. Like, season 2 clearly sets up season 3 to be the final season, the end of the show as we know it. And we do build up to that, moment where you're like, okay, there's no turning back now. However, the season is not without its cons. Like I said, we're building and building and building, but at a certain point, does the season just feel like build up? And this third season will be all the payoff of that build up. In a way, yes, I think so. I am of the belief that this could have been one mega season. You had season 1, we waited all these years. Why not wait a little longer? I don't mind waiting even 6, 7 more months, even a whole year to watch season 2 and season 3 combined into one long season of TV that's anywhere from 10 to 15, 16 episodes long. That gives us the full picture, because to me, Squid Game Season 2 ends on a note that's a bit unsatisfying. It's like we got all this momentum and we built up to this moment, and then it's like, okay, we aren't going to give you even 1 or 2 more episodes. We're just going to kind of cut it off right here, and you'll see what happens in next season. It reminded me a lot of what The Boys Season 4 did, a season of TV that I liked for the most part, but by the end, it was like, okay, things have really, been put in motion now. I can't wait. And then it's like, actually, you got to wait about 2 years to see what's going to happen here. With Squid Game in particular, the whole structure of the season never really allows for any finality, and I feel like that's because so many of the episodes just end so abruptly. It's the WandaVision effect, where an episode will be, going, and you're like, okay, things are heating up here, and then like, boom, credits start rolling. That's it. It's not like there is a beginning, middle, and an end of an episode. It doesn't feel like, we have closure in an individual ep. It's almost like they had one long movie and they chopped it up, and they're like, yeah, we'll go ahead and randomly end this one here, and then we'll do that in ep 6 as well, just because we gotta cut this into like 7 episodes or whatever. If you look at the runtimes, that's also apparent. Like, one of the episodes is 50 minutes, one's like an hour and 5, an hour and 16. So there's not a lot of structure in the season in the terms of, flow of episodes. And that's also evident to me because the first 2 episodes are by far the weakest. They're a lot slower, and I would say the biggest knock I have, besides some of the structural issues of the season, is the pacing. And the pacing is, I'm not going to say it moves at a snail's pace, but in the first 2 episodes in particular, things are moving pretty slow. Yes, it's cool to be outside of the games. Yes, it's cool to be introduced to some new characters here, but at the same time, I'm ready to get things going. And you gotta wait a little too long, in my opinion, to really get to the good stuff. And if this season wanted to go the route of being all set up, I feel like we could have got at least 2 to 3 more episodes in this season alone. The first season's 9 episodes, this is only 7. If we got even 2 more episodes to kind of set things in motion even more for season 3, I feel like I would have been more on board, but we did end a bit abruptly, and there's like a little scene in the post-credits too that happened really fast, and so I do feel like we should have just been given season 2 as season 2 and 3 combined, and I haven't even seen season 3 yet. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll be sat for season 3. I'm excited for season 3. I just feel like they could have mashed it all together into one mega season to end the show. And like I mentioned in the pros, there's a certain character in this season that we, the audience, fully know to be someone, but the rest of the characters on the show have no idea. They don't have that information, right? Well, this can sort of lead to a bit of predictability as the season progresses. You kind of can read the room, feel the vibe of where we're headed in a certain direction, and that got to be a bit predictable. There's also one subplot outside of the games that involves a certain character who may or may not return, but regardless, there's some predictability there as well. But at the same time, I will say there's some genuine shock moments. And I feel like that was one of the strengths of Squid Game Season 1, was how fresh it felt with keeping you on your toes. I remember the marble episode really struck a chord with me emotionally, but also stunned me. I was like, did not expect them to go there. In this season, there are those emotional moments where you're like, man, that kind of hit. And you can start to, feel the emotion swell up, but then it kind of dies down and simmers out a bit. I think they're saving a lot of that for season 3. But like I mentioned, there's some predictability here. I will say there's another subplot too that I feel like we're going to get more answers with in season 3. I'm not spoiling this very clearly, by the way, but there's one subplot involving one of the pink soldiers and their relationship potentially to someone from season 1. And I really want to see where that character ends up. But they didn't really bring anything to a close with it. They presented some ideas and set up this character, but we didn't get a lot of answers. And so there's a lot of questions that I need to be answered in season 3 regarding multiple subplots, regarding 4, 5, 6, regarding this character who I've not named, who is one person that we know to be, but the rest of the characters have no clue who they are. Being vague intentionally with my use of language here, but I enjoyed the season for the most part, in all honesty. Like, I have seen it getting bashed online. I think it's rotten on Rotten Tomatoes from like the fans or whatever. And there's a lot of complaints saying, well, this season, they aren't at the games fast enough. And I get it, trust me. Even I said in this review, first 2 episodes are a bit more slow moving. But I feel like they are necessary because I don't think we're going to have another moment to slow down, especially as we get into season 3, that's outside of the games. I think those were the last 2 episodes of somewhat normalcy in this show, and from here on out, especially with where we leave off, I don't know if there's any going back. Like I said, we've kind of reached the point of no return. Everyone's full sent, and it kind of reminds me of the Hunger Games series, if you guys have seen that. We're kind of in the Mockingjay Part 2 phase as we head into Season 3. And when it comes to the characters themselves, lots of fascinating new characters introduced. There's a mother-son duo, there's this druggy rapper, there's a pregnant girl. I mean, there's a lot to process, and there are some complex characters here that really show the best and worst of humanity. Season 1 touched on these ideas of morality, good versus evil, right versus wrong, greed, and these are all concepts that make a return here in Season 2. And they even dive further into them, I would say. Like, there really is this struggle between what's right, what's wrong, and situation by situation, we see that with all these new characters, and especially when they have to vote after each game. Like, there are some gut-wrenching moments where you can kind of see both sides, and I feel like that's kind of representative of just society today. Pretty impressive, in my opinion, how they handled some of those relationships. So all in all, I will say that Season 2 of Squid Game is entertaining. I'm in. I really wish we got more of this season, a couple more episodes, because I would have been more satisfied. I feel a bit like they kind of just left us hanging. I'll be sat for Season 3. I'm excited, looking forward to how they bring this show to a close. This season never reaches the heights of Season 1, but I didn't expect that from it, truly. But it does set up the final season really well, and I think there's going to be a lot of rewarding moments as a viewer there. You know, so many questions we have are going to be answered in Season 3. I think they're going to round it out really nicely, and I have confidence they'll stick the landing, but who's to say? There's a lot to do and potentially only a little bit of time depending on the episode count of this new season. So of course I wish we got Season 2 with Season 3 as one long epic season all at once, but at least we get the conclusion, Season 3 next year. We don't have to wait 3 to 4 years. They've already announced that the final season of Squid Game, Season 3, drops in 2025. So lots of big Netflix shows are coming to an end next year. But that does it for my honest thoughts on Squid Game Season 2. Let me know yours in the comments down below, and drop your predictions for Season 3 as well. Where do you think we're headed? How do you think this show's going to end? Hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell, and stay tuned for more content coming very soon. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.